Welcome! We are looking at the basic surface area formulas for a cylinder and a prism. So by the end of this lesson, I would certainly hope that you would be able to determine the surface area of a cylinder and of a prism. So first of all, let's talk about this idea of surface area. So surface area, we're looking at three-dimensional figures, and we're saying, okay, if you were to add up all of the areas of each individual face or surface of it, okay, to create the 3D shape. So if we think about a soup can, if you cut the circle off the top and the bottom, okay, you could then cut a line right down the side of it, roll it out, and you'd end up with a rectangle. So you'd have a rectangle and two circles, and that would give you the surface. Okay, with a box, you can unfold the box, and you would end up with a shape looking similar to the one on the screen now. And this is true even with triangular prisms, right? If you were to pull it all apart and lay it all flat, this is what you would end up with. So now, one of the things that I'd like to point out is the fact that with prisms, okay, they're named for their bases. Well, if they have any part of them that is not a parallelogram, that is automatically the base. So anytime you look at a prism, if you see any side that isn't, okay, a parallelogram, that automatically has to be the base, whether if it's a triangle or a trapezoid or it could be like a hexagon or an octagon or whatnot. Okay, that would have to be the base. So as we get into this, okay, we're going to start off with the surface area of a cylinder, and the formula for this is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Okay, where r is just simply the radius of that circle that makes up the base, and then the height of the cylinder is h. And remember, the height is the distance between the two circles, because that's the distance between the bases. So if you look here in the drawing, okay, you can see that this 7 inches right here gives us the radius of the circle, and then it is 14 inches from the bottom circle to the top circle, so that is our height. So if we just simply put that in our formula, that gives us 2 times pi times 7 squared plus 2 times pi times 7 times 14, right? Because our r, we just input that 7 for each r in our formula, and we put a 14 in for the height. When you actually insert those values, it's almost like you're filling out a document, and you're just simply inputting what each value has to be. Now at this point is where you actually have to do a little math. So we have to do the 7 squared is 49, and then we are going to do the 7 times 14, which gives us 98. And then we need to continue on and do 2 times 49 and get 98, and then 2 times 98 to get the 196. So that gives us 98 pi plus 196 pi equals 294 pi. And then this is in square inches, right? Because area is in square inches. So surface area is also in square inches. Now, when you get to your homework tonight, it's going to ask you to actually not leave it in terms of pi, and it's going to ask you to round to the nearest tenth. So you can either use 3.14, or if you happen to have a calculator that has pi on it, you can just hit the pi button. Now it may change your value just slightly, whether you use the pi button or 3.14, but we'll make sure to go back and correct it and give credit for anyone who does it either way. So here, if you were to do that, you do 294 times 3.14, which is the decimal approximation for pi, and that gives you that it's approximately 923.2 square inches that's rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, up next we're going to look at the surface area of a prism, which is 2 times the area of the base plus the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. Now, we're going to look at a triangular prism first, and then we'll look at a rectangular prism also. So you can see you use the same exact formula. It's just slightly different because the area of the base is a little different, so you have to go about it slightly different. So this particular triangular prism that we're given here, right? We talked about the fact that the triangles have to be the bases because they're not parallelograms. So when we look at this particular triangle, this is our base, right? And so when we look at it, right, the height of this triangle is 3. Okay, the base of that would be 4, right? Because it has to be the distance, right, from the vertex to the opposite, right, side at 90 degrees. So that's what this is. So you're going to have to pull back that area of a triangle formula, which is 1/2 of base times height. Okay, so we have our base is 1/2 of that 4 times 3, which happens to be 6. Okay, the next thing that we have to do is find the height of this prism. So remember, the height of the prism is the distance between the bases. So between this triangle here and this triangle here, that distance is 15 centimeters. So our height is 15. And then last but not least, we need to know the perimeter of the base. Well, remember, this triangle is our base. So to find the perimeter of this triangle is 5 plus 5 plus 4, or 14. Now that we have what the area of the base is, we have what the height is, and we have what the perimeter is, we can just pop it right into that formula. Okay, so when we do that, then our surface area is 2 times the area of the base, which was 6, plus the perimeter, which was 15, the height, which was 15, times the perimeter of the base, which is 14. So then we do 2 times 6 is 12, and we do 15 times 14, which is 210. We add those together, and we get that's 222 square centimeters. Now, there is no pi, so there's no reason to use a decimal approximation when dealing with this. If for some reason you did have some crazy decimal involved because there were a bunch of decimals in those, you would be told exactly where to round it to in the homework problem. Okay, now to look at the surface area of a prism when we're talking about a rectangular prism. Now, technically, when you have a rectangular prism, you can make any one side of it your base and you will still be okay. So for the purpose of this, we are going to use the 15 by 12 bottom piece here, okay, is the base of our prism. So when I find the area of the base, I'm going to do this 15 times 12. So 15 times 12 to find the area of the base. Okay, remember the height of the prism is the distance between the bases. So if this is the one base, then this up here has to be the second base. So the area between them, the distance between them would be that 6 inches. And then the perimeter of the base would be 15 plus 12 plus 15 plus 12, which gives us 54. So now if we take those values and just put it into the formula, 2 times the area of the base would be 2 times 180, plus the perimeter of the base, which was 54, times the height, which was 6. So that's 360 plus 324, which gives us 684 square inches. Again, we're not dealing with any decimals. If you had decimals that you needed to deal with, you would always be told what to round them to. Okay, next for you guys. On Khan Academy, there are just a couple of problems that are a few basic surface area problems dealing with the prisms that we'd like you to do. And those have already been assigned to you. And then when you're done with that, you should take your assessment in Schoology. Obviously, if you don't do well, you can always get a hold of your teacher to get some help when you meet them during their office hours or send them messages back and forth or whatnot. And then the final thing that you need to do for this lesson is just feel good that you're halfway through the week. Hopefully this was informative and you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you soon.